Hey adventurers, Jacob here from Local Adventure, and today we're going to be talking about the best cheap vlogging camera. Now this is a lot of cameras to check out all in one video, so we're going to break it up into a few different videos and check them out based on categories. That way you can kind of compare them apples to apples. We're going to be looking at some action cams, camcorders, larger cameras, but mostly compact cameras, and break them down based on price. Now when I say cheap, I know that's kind of relative, but all of these cameras are under $500. In these reviews, we're not going to really talk about the technical aspects of the cameras or the specs of them, but really talk about how does it feel, what is it like to use, and then give you side-by-side comparisons of the footage right out of camera so that you can decide for yourself what you like the best. Now I'm sure you've heard it before, but the best camera is the camera that you have with you. We get the question all the time, what's the best camera I should buy? And my first question is always, what's your budget? Usually I suggest writing down what you want to accomplish with the camera. Some people only want to do photos, some people want to do video and photos, other people only want to focus on video. Then compare the cameras that fit within your budget and see which one fits your needs the best. So with that said, let's get started. Today we're going to be checking out the larger cameras. There's a DSLR mirrorless, and I don't think this is either of them, but they're all bigger cameras for sure. They're not the compact point and shoot cameras that we were looking at earlier. First off, at $398, we have the Panasonic DMC FZ300. Then at $399, we have the Canon EOS Rebel T6. And lastly, at $448, we have the Sony A5100. Let's start off with the Panasonic. We've got the nice fat instruction manual. We have an external battery charger. I mentioned this in a previous video, but I prefer these so that I can charge a battery while still using the camera as opposed to having to plug the camera in. You got a lens hood, lens cap, cable to hook up to a computer, and a camera strap. I'm not going to open any of those just because I'm not going to need them for what I will be doing with the camera. Besides that, you have the camera itself and the battery, which is charged and already placed inside the camera. Now let's talk about some quick specs. This camera shoots 4K at 30 frames a second or 1080 at 60 frames per second. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, just a quick recap, 4K is a big file. Most videos you're watching on YouTube like this one is at 1080. You'll see some 4K ones which are usually beautiful landscape, very cinematic type stuff. Now I don't usually shoot in 4K, but that's primarily because editing it is such a pain, and editing with my laptop just can't keep up with the size of the file. Good example is if this is 1080, 4K is usually like something like this big. It gives you more data to work with. So the nice thing about 4K is if you're editing in 1080 but you have 4K footage, you can zoom into a portion of this large thing and it'll still have the quality of 1080. But again, it takes a lot of processing power to edit, and I hate editing in it just because my computer can't keep up. Now when we're talking about frames per second, 30 frames is probably going to be something like you're seeing now, 24, 30 frames. 60 frames gives you slow-mo about half the speed of real life. So rather than doing this, like I've been doing in every video, this is probably getting really old if you've seen them all, I'm going to be going like this, which is maybe half speed, but I don't know. On top of that, it shoots 120 frames per second, which is about 5 times slow-mo at 720p, which is smaller than 1080, but you could stretch to 1080 and usually you probably won't really notice too much of a difference. There is a flip screen on this, and on top of that, there is a mic input right here, which is nice. Now let's talk about the feel of this camera. Now I've never actually shot with a Panasonic Lumix before. It feels pretty standard. It feels familiar to what I'm usually dealing with, which are my Canon DSLRs. The ergonomics and the feel of it is nice. Now, unlike the DSLRs or the mirrorless, this lens is not interchangeable. The good thing is the lens gives you a really wide range of 25 millimeters to 600 millimeters, which is a lot. But if you wanted a very specific lens for it, you wouldn't be able to switch it out. Other than that, it's pretty standard. It gives you all the buttons that you need access to either on the back panel or on the top. You're able to mount a microphone on top or a flash. There is a built-in flash if you wanted to use that. There's a zoom button that you can use with your right finger, but there's also right one on the lens. There's one on the lens that is, it's a digital zoom as well. So getting to 600, you're gonna have to wait, a couple seconds. You can't just go woof. There's also a viewfinder that you can simply use by putting your eye up to it, or if it's closed on the back, then it'll automatically switch to that viewfinder. I'm excited to test this one out because I haven't shot with anything like this. So we'll be checking out per usual, comparing all 3 of these, although I have to figure out how I'm gonna do that since they are bigger. All right, next up we have the Canon. We have all the instructions here. We have the external battery charger. Again, that's my preference. You got a camera strap, you have a cable to plug it into your computer, and the lens and the body was separate, but here are the caps that I've already taken off. On top of that, you have the camera itself and the battery, which is this guy. Now this camera shoots at 1080p 30 frames a second. Good enough for YouTube, not really slow-mo. It does shoot 720p at 60 frames a second, which gives you that half-time, but not as good a quality of video. You can record up to 30 minutes on this, and the screen itself is only on the back. No flip screen. That's kind of a bummer. Now the kit lens that it comes with is 18mm to 55, which is pretty standard. And even though there is a mount, there is no microphone plug-in. Why? Why would they do that? Like the Lumix, the camera has a pop-up flash. Other than that, it feels, again, like something I'm familiar with, a DSLR camera. It feels good in my hands. You do have the advantage of being able to switch up lenses, so if you do want something that's a different quality, you're able to do that, and you're able to work with the Canon lenses. If you want to get into photography as well, that's a really great tool because you can buy nice lenses for your cheaper body for now, and eventually once you upgrade, those lenses are still good. The menu system is pretty straightforward, and you have all the buttons you need access to, as well as access to what you need up top. Why would you not make a flip screen and a microphone for this? Lastly, we have the Sony camera. It comes with a camera strap. It comes with a charging cable, which also acts as a connection to the computer. Now, I'm sure Sony makes an external battery charger as well. I'm just going to deal with what comes in the box, and it's kind of a bummer that it's just a plug-in, because that means you got to plug in your camera just to charge it up. Besides that, you have the camera itself and battery. As you can see, this is a lot smaller than this guy and than this guy. Talking some quick specs, it shoots at 1080p, 60 frames a second, so it gives you that half slow-mo, like good enough for YouTube quality. It shoots up to 29 minutes of video uninterrupted, and it has a flip screen that flips up and down like this. The lens that it comes with is a 16mm to 50mm, but again, kind of like the Canon, the lens is interchangeable, so I could pop this off, buy a different lens, and mount it onto it. That's just a great option because it gives you a lot of flexibility on what you want to shoot with, and it gives you the opportunity to invest in lenses that you can use even as you upgrade your body. Now I'm excited to try this out because we have some die-hard Sony friends that have been trying to get us to switch from Canon over to Sony. This is a little more on the intro level, but Sony is supposed to be great for anyone who wants to shoot video and photos, but they particularly excel in videos, as opposed to Canon, which still needs to work on some of their video. In terms of feel, you know, I'm not as used to it. It's obviously a little bit smaller, bigger than some of the compact cameras, but it still has some weight and feels nice. It's kind of nice and beveled right here, right? So you got the grip. Plenty of button options that you need. Has the built-in flash. Now, unfortunately, there is no microphone plug-in or anywhere to even mount a microphone or external flash. Like the Lumix, you have the digital zoom in and out on your index right finger as well as on the lens itself. But kind of like the Canon, which gives you the ability to go whip in and out quickly, you can actually do it manually on this as well. It gives you a little bit of resistance, but you're still able to get where you want quickly. All right, so I'm excited. Let's take these out and shoot to see what it looks like. And that way you can decide. We're gonna shoot all of these at 1080 to give you an apples to apples comparison and also shoot with the onboard microphone. All right, because we're still in quarantine, I'm just sticking close by to shoot this, but we're gonna find a couple different environments. Unfortunately, I can't use this setup that I've been using for everything else just because these cameras are bigger and they won't mount on here. So this one's gonna be a little bit different because I have to shoot each camera separately. Hopefully I can line up what I'm doing pretty close though. But here goes, let's check it out. So we're gonna test it on the side of the road now just because there's gonna be a lot of car noise driving by, and it's a good way to test it when there's a little bit more noise as I'm trying to talk as well, to see if the mic picks up more of me or more of the car noise, etc. It's a pretty cloudy day today, so you're not gonna really be able to see the difference between backlit or front lit, but it'll be a little bit different. The sun's behind me right now, but overall it's overcast, so you know you can get a pretty even light. But right now I'm more backlit, and when I flip around, you'll see that the light's a little bit better because the sun's coming from that side. That way you're able to really see the difference on how it handles backlight versus front light. Let's check out the zoom now. We're picking a random tree out in the middle of this, on the other side of the lake, and see how well it does with the zoom. Lenses are significantly different, but this at least gives you an idea of what it's capable of with the kit lens. Let's try with some movement. I'm gonna go down the stairs, pointing it at the stairs, then back up, pointing it at me, just so you can see the difference and see how it does with movement. Also, we're gonna test out some B-roll, which is basically just some tight, pretty shots that would be used to transition between different shots. You know, where you throw music over it. Something like this. Let's test it in some low light as well. Obviously you have a lot more flexibility controlling this kind of stuff, but we're in the bathroom. We're just gonna go with automatic settings and see how it does. There you go, a little bit better light, just so you can compare the two. It's still relatively dark in here and it's very echoey in here. So just wanna see how it handles in this low light situation. A little echoey in here as well, so it's a little bit of a different sound area. We're gonna turn on one more light out here. And that's just a little more pop of light to see if it's just as grainy or not. See how it does on the automatic settings. Here in low light, whether or not it's grabbing focus, how it exposes, if it's grainy, how the sound is. It's a little bit more echoey in here. We're gonna turn on one more light just to see. Oop, a little more light in the situation, because you're probably not gonna be shooting completely in the dark, but that's what it looks like. So what do you think now that you've seen the footage? Based on the footage that I saw, I would go with the Sony, especially if you're not invested in one of these systems already. You could start with Sony, get additional lenses, grow into the better bodies as you have more of a budget, but it's a great way to start. I thought the video quality was way better than Canon. It gives you the 60 frames a second if you do want to use that, and it's just so much smaller and lighter to move around with. All right guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below which you thought was the best camera. Special thanks to B&H for lending us these cameras so that we could check them out and test them out for you. And if you want to pick them up, check out the links below. If you have any questions about the specs or anything like that, be sure to contact them. They have an amazing staff. If you want more details on how these cameras felt or what we thought about them, you can leave us questions in the comment below as well. And be sure to click on the link below to check out our blog post where we go over all the different cameras we checked out for cheap vlogging camera options. Thanks guys, we'll see you later.